So NADDPOD just announced Campaign 3, and it's going to be Bahumia Part 2 in the future. This is so exciting. I have so many theories and predictions and things I want to talk to you guys about, so I'm going to break it all down, all the information we know, and what I think will happen, and characters I think that we will see. Big spoilers ahead for Campaign 1. I won't add any spoilers for Campaign 2 because that's pretty recent and it's irrelevant, but Campaign 1, early Bahumia, huge spoilers ahead. Be careful. Okay, so this is recorded on the 18th of January. So far, they have released the announcement, the half-side chat, and then a session 0. So I'm basing all of this off that information. So for those who aren't up to date, Campaign 3 is taking place in Bahumia around 200 years after the end of Campaign 1. And it'll be starting in Esri, where there's this evil megacorp called Mothership. And all of our party will be working for Mothership when the campaign starts. That's about all we know so far. So Gladeholm kind of yeeted off to Astral Keep, leaving the material realm in a place of chaos and like a bit of a power struggle. And there are 5 major factions in this power struggle. There is Esri, where there's that evil megacorp and the campaign will start. They are the most technological, like magical tech, advanced faction that there is here. Then there is Iron Deeps. The Mines of Iron Deeps got remade after they all fell into Cataclysm, and they are apparently doing very well. Asmodia. So all of the roaming orcs of Bahumia came together in Asmodia and have now created a very strong military power. They are very good allies with Iron Deep, and they are very close geographically. Iron Deep being mines means that they can make very good weapons, and orcs being strong means that that is a very dangerous threat. Then there is the Frigid North and Frostwind. The Ice Giants have made an alliance with the Frostwind Dwarves for the first time like ever, and they are uniting, which is an insane military power. Frostwind was already the strongest place on Bahumia, and now they also have the Giants, so I don't know how that'll turn out if they want to invade Bahumia proper. And finally, the Fey Archipelago. This is a new group of islands. He's not sure if it'll actually be islands or not, but for now, it's the Fey Archipelago, and it's basically a bunch of people from the Seelie and Unseelie court all living there. I think that they won't be a major part of the conflict because they don't seem very aggressive. They don't have much to gain, in my opinion, but they might be involved. I don't know where they are geographically relative to Bahumia. That hasn't been announced yet. If they're between Frostwind and the main continent, then they're very much going to be involved. So in Campaign 2 at one point, Murph teased about inventing war mechanics that never really came into play. So, I believe that there is going to be a big war on Bahumia. I'm not sure where, but I'm pretty confident that there'll be a big war and it'll be a big part of the story, maybe a midpoint of the whole campaign. As for the factions at play here, Asmodia and Iron Deep are probably in an alliance, and they will probably go for Esri being the other major power, and because there's an evil megacorp there called Mothership, and I have thoughts on Mothership, I'll tell you later. The other war possibility is, like I mentioned before, Frostwind coming over. Now if you look at the map, Frostwind is actually very close to Iron Deep. It's the closest place. Iron Deep is actually on the ocean. So I believe that Frostwind could attack Iron Deep, then Asmodia will come to help, and then Esri will be kind of pulling strings behind the scenes, hoping that all of them damage each other, and then they can just come in and conquer the land once everyone's fought each other to death, pretty much. Because Esri is very, very far away from everything else. Now let's talk about Mothership, which was previously known as Alan Inc., depending on which episode of it you listen to, but I think it's going to be called Mothership. So this is like a megacorp in Esri that is pulling the strings and is behind the royalty of Esri. Like they are in charge of Esri. Now, obviously Mothership is evil. Murph even said so himself. With a name like that, you know, you're not great. He said they could be neutral, but they're going to be bad guys. So, what do they want with Bahumia? What is their goal? Power just for power's sake isn't really Murph's style of storytelling. He likes to justify his villains with wanting to accomplish something. For example, Fiala in Campaign 1 wanted to protect everyone, so she wanted to be the strongest so she could protect them, and any disobedience was not protection, kind of thing. She wanted to be a protector, ultimately. So I don't think that they will have the same goal, because Murph wouldn't do the same goal twice in a row, so we can knock that out. They could be related to the astral plane. Mothership is a very spacey, mind-flayery term in my opinion, and they're a mysterious new corporation in charge of the most technologically advanced place in Bahumia. It would make sense that Gladeholm went there to deal with Mind Flayer's gift the Rai situation, but that's already on Bahumia, and that's how Gladeholm will tie into the story around halfway through the campaign, because it's already been here. It's all part of the same story. But that could be entirely wrong. The simpler answer would be that they just want technological advancement at any cost, and they want to take the best resources from Iron Deep. They want to go to the Living Woods, which was teased by Murph as well as being a very magical place that Ezri wants to get to. So it could just be, that could just be their goal. They just want to be the biggest, techiest, most advanced society that there is. Maybe to catch up with Gladeholm, which is interesting. The Dragon Elves in the Living Woods are another small faction that was introduced, and I think that they will be extremists that ultimately have a good point. They want to protect the Living Woods, the magic, the treants, and the dragons, which all sounds nice, but the fact that they just kill anyone isn't so nice. So they're kind of bad guys, but they're anti-heroes-ish, or they have a good motivation at least. They're just a bit extreme. I think it is highly likely that Mishka Beverly Pawpaw II is involved with them, because that dragon was left at the Crick, which is right near the Living Woods, when Campaign 1 ended. So that's one of my predictions, that Mishka Beverly Pawpaw II is in charge of the Dragon Elves, or their leader, or their god or something. But it could also be Tulane from the Sanctuary, which happened very late in Campaign 1. It was like Dragonopolis, you know, that place, with Cordon Bleu. So she could also be the leader of the Dragon Elves, because she wanted to bring the dragons back to the material plane, but was scared that they would die, and also didn't want to, like, justify their killings, was kind of her thing. So maybe there's an opening to the Sanctuary in the Living Woods, and maybe as we know about this and want to get to the dragons, because dragons equals magic equals tech. Maybe. My final thought on Dragon Elves is obviously Moonshine, because, you know, she was an elf, she turned into a dragon in the finale, she brought a dragon there, she has a connection, she could very well be the origin of the Dragon Elves. She could plausibly just live as a dragon now and be their dragon god, or their leader, or initiated it, but then has left to go to the astral plane. But she can also plane shift, so she could just go in between whenever she wants. So it's possible that she's involved with the Dragon Elves a little bit. But I don't think that she would allow the Dragon Elves and the Crick to be in conflict if Mimor was still alive. So my prediction is that the Crick Elves are hiding from the Dragon Elves, but they are also in the Living Woods. I reckon that Moonshine cast a spell hiding all of the Crick within the Living Woods, somewhere small and nice. And I believe that they are there to help innocent people that the Dragon Elves are trying to kill. Murph teased as much, but I think that they will actually be on the same side morally. They just don't agree with the Dragon Elves' extremism. New information on odd locations. The giants in the north will definitely bring something to the table. This is huge, especially if Jake ends up playing a giant, which it looks very likely, or a half giant. They are going to be a major part of this story. And the Dragon Wars, and Murph would probably be like, oh yeah, history is cyclical. So he'd do another giant war, you know, that's likely in my opinion. The Fire Giants are an entirely new faction which we heard nothing about. I think he mentioned that they came from under Mount Forge, but I could have misunderstood that. But there are Fire Giants now, which is awesome, and it sounds like they are at war with the Ice Giants and Dwarves, which is interesting. The Dwargers being cured of their mithril madness in Galateron is another interesting development as well, because Galateron and Ezri are like kind of twin cities, they're friendly with each other, and it's mentioned that they have an alliance, those two, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes, and to see what powers these Dwargers plus the mithril could create. That, mixed with Ezri's scientific advancements, could make really devastating creatures or weapons. The Living Woods and the Crick. Now, I think that the Crick is hidden within the Living Woods. It disappeared, it just got moved to inside the Living Woods. And I think the exact place that it'll be is where Moonshine had the confrontation with Maribel, because I just think that would be very sweet. So that's my official prediction for where the Crick is. Now, here is the really fun part, you know, theorizing about which characters could still be alive, despite Murph specifically asking us all not to. So, I'm gonna do it. So let's start with the Band of Boobs. I think he heavily implied that because of their power levels, Hard One and Moonshine will still be alive for sure, Hard One being part elf. I actually think that it's pretty possible that Beverly is dead. I think that's my official prediction for that, and I'll tell you why in a second. I think Hard One and Moonshine would have split up, like in a physical sense, but they can still be emotionally attached to each other, but they would never tether each other down. So I think if one of them wanted to go and explore something, such as Hard One with the dwarves, or Moonshine with Crick people, or going to space, or whatever it is, I think that they would let each other go separate ways. So I think they won't physically be together, but they can still be emotionally together, if they are both still alive. So one theory is that Moonshine is staying with the Dragon Elves and the Crick and all of that, in which case I think Hard One will be in Gladeholm, and if Moonshine is in Gladeholm, then I think Hard One will not be. I don't know where he'll be. Maybe his physical body passed and he is in Shadowfell with his mother. I think that that is a strong possibility if Hard One has died, that he will still be alive in the Shadowfell with Lydia. I believe that he would have given the Queen's Hammer to Jaina and like given it back to the Bronzebeards and imbued it with his power, and it is now a legendary weapon that the Bronzebeards used to take control of Irondeep, because I think Bronzebeards will be the controlling family of Irondeep. As for Moonshine, as I mentioned, she could be in space, she could be with the Dragon Elves, but she could have also taken up a job as Melora's assistant. Like, I can see her following around doing whatever Melora does, but being a bit more hearty, you know, having a bit more of a heart about things and helping people when Melora wouldn't in cheeky ways, but generally being Melora's assistant. I can see that for Moonshine. So as I mentioned before, I think that Beverly is likely to be dead, and I think that a very sweet ending for him would have been him passing from a broken heart when Erlen died, and I think that their legacy will be a huge Green Teens organization. And I'm talking like powerful knights, like they created a power. And finally, Balnor. I wouldn't forget Balnor. Balnor's the best. Now here's the thing, because we don't exactly know how time in the Feywild works, and we don't know how many generations had passed before Balnor was born, Balnor could 100% just be around in the Feywild in the time of Campaign 2. I think that that is plausible, because 300 years here times a lot, I don't exactly know, but it is plausible because we just don't know how many generations had passed before he got attacked and got taken and Bobby and all of that. Now let me be clear, I'm not 100% sure this will happen. I actually think it's fairly unlikely, but I'm saying that it's possible in a non-bullshitty way. So the way I can see Balnor being in the story is that the crew has to go to the Feywild for some reason, and they just stumble upon his village and they meet Bobby, like fishing for tuna, and then they go and talk to the village elder, and it's Balnor, and he's just a sweet old man with his tuna, and with his family, and with his mayo nuts, and just having a good time. That's how I would use Balnor, and I think that that's how Murph would as well in this story. And now for side characters, I'm going to start with elves because Murph said that only elves and dwarves would live, and that kind of checks out of D&D lore anyway, so let's go with the elves. Mimor. Mimor could very much be alive, and she could still be the Mimor of the Crick, theoretically. I think if she passed, then the new Mimor will be causing conflict, and I think that that's where a big story point will happen. If Mimor is dead, then the new Mimor isn't great. That's my official theory on Mimor and the Crick. Lucanus. I reckon Lucanus is still alive, you know, up in space, up in Gladeholm. He's probably in a leading role there. I reckon that's a fair bet. Ren. Ren is alive and is being a nuisance somewhere. It's very possible that either him or his, like, kids are, you know, in charge of Mothership or just being bad CEOs of a magic tech company. That is a possible minor antagonistic role I can see Ren or Ren's family having. Now for dwarves. I think it's very possible that Jaina Bronzebeard is still alive. I think that she'll be a mother or even grandmother by now. But I think that she's still alive, probably, you know, out of any leadership roles, you know, passed on the Bronzebeard name, maybe the hammer as well, that Hardwon gave to her in my headcanon. So I believe that she is still alive and is going to be a friendly face to see. Cyrus Caldane and Grimful McGannis were the leaders of the Frost Dwarves and Irondeep respectively. The last time we saw them was in the Astral Keep when Alanis did the pew pew thing, so they could have been scattered into space, and seeing as some part of this campaign will happen in space, space being the astral plane, it is very, very possible that they will show up or that their, like, ascendants will. I think that that's very possible. Ascendants? Ascendants doesn't sound right. Descendants. Descendants. Now for other characters that I think are still probably alive. I reckon we can start with Pentagreens. That's a pretty sure thing. He's a demon, we don't know how much they age. I reckon that he's still alive. I don't think he's still in charge of the 9 Hells. I reckon someone took the Hellfire crown, but I reckon that he's still alive. And now Lydia Stormborn. I think that's her last name. I'm actually not 100% sure. But either way, she was the ruler of Shadowfell when the campaign 1 ended, and I can't imagine that changing for any real reason, because she's already dead. What's she gonna do, die again? I mean, happened to Deadeye. I don't think she'll die again. I reckon that she's still gonna be in charge of the Shadowfell. That's my official prediction. If Hardwon does die, strong chance that he's there with her. If not, I reckon Javelin could be next to her. I reckon that'd be really cute. And now Tulane. We learned a lot about her, but didn't get a lot of time with her, and I think she'll play a bigger role, especially if dragons and dragon magic play a big role in Campaign 3. She's the lady from the Sanctuary. She was in Melora's adventuring party. That is confirmed. So she's a very interesting character, and we will definitely be seeing more of her, I hope. And finally, the only guest that I think could reappear is Tonathan Tinkle, because he is a gnome. Gnomes have long lifespans, and he has the knowledge of Uku. You know, he took like the Watcher's apprentice role, and he knows all the books and all the knowledge and has a third eye. I reckon that he's powerful enough to live even if gnomes couldn't, and I do think he'll still be alive somewhere to give the party very crucial information. And I think that's going to be very interesting. So that is my predictions and theories for Campaign 3 so far. We have no episodes yet. I might do this week to week depending on, you know, how it goes and if there's enough information to justify doing so. I just realized I haven't talked about the characters. There isn't really much to go off. We know that Jake is probably playing a frost giant thing. We hope that Emily is playing an Eladrin that's like malfunctioning and has a duck. That was really cool. And oh my god, Solomon Buffa is the best character idea I've ever heard of in my life, and I'm in love. And I'm gonna be so mad if it's a bard, because it just needs to be a monk with those astral fists. Oh, it'll be so cool. I do have a few ideas about the Esri arc, but I might wait until episode 1 is dropped before elaborating on them, because I could just be off base because none of the information we've been given is like canon yet, you know? So I'll wait until episode 1 and then drop another theory video on this upcoming Esri Mothership arc. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any other theories or something that I missed or someone that's going to be alive that I just forgot about. Please do let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!